Chapter 431, 249, Return to Earth. Meet the young sister, _2. Did they really just die like that? It seems that the alien from the origin land isn't as powerful as I had imagined. Thinking this, Linziken's mind shifted, moving all of the skyscraping giant trees aside. Then, with another thought, he commanded, "Devour." As the thought landed, a text prompt appeared in the void. There is no alien life origin within the body, unable to perform devouring. No alien life origin? What does that mean? Are aliens and Earthlings the same species? Seeing the content of the prompt, Linziken's mind was filled with countless thoughts. Meanwhile, behind him, Fuzhou, Wu Xia, and Shen Qinghan all stopped, their faces filled with disbelief as they stared at the bloodied cocoon hanging in mid-air, their eyes filled with astonishment. The three of them couldn't believe that Linziken could resolve it so easily. After all, that was an alien. And not just any alien, but one of at least rare level. Instantly killed. This was just too unreal. Linziken noticed the three had stopped and saw the shock on their faces, but he didn't pay it any attention. Instead, he used his thoughts to control the vines and pull over a palm-sized bag. This bag was a remnant from the ruins of Mo Suduo. It was very tough, and the vines couldn't tear it apart. Soon, the bag was in his hand, and Linziken inspected it carefully. It was not made of fabric but of a creature's hide. After examining it, it felt very familiar, much like the inner membrane of a dimension rat's mouth. So, this bag, it's a storage bag? Linziken was slightly excited. If it truly was a storage bag, then there must be many valuable items inside. After all, this was a rare level alien storage bag from the origin land. With this thought, Linziken spread his spiritual power into the bag in his hand that he suspected to be a storage bag. He discovered that inside there were many fist-sized blue crystals, beast cores. Besides that, there were a number of strangely shaped exotic herbs and flowers, along with a few small items that he didn't recognize. This haul was indeed substantial. Murder and arson for a golden belt, as the saying goes, is indeed true. The money comes too fast. Linziken thought to himself. Soon, the three people behind him came running back and continued to be stunned by the sight of the blood-stained cocoon in the air. The more they looked at it, the more shocked they felt. To this moment, all three found it hard to believe that Linziken could easily kill a rare-level alien in an instant. It was powerful to the point of being unbelievable and almost inconceivable. Let's go, we'll continue to get familiar with the outskirts of the danger zone. Linziken thought, putting the storage bag into his storage space, planning to take it out and study it slowly when he returned to the city. Fuzhou had originally wanted to return to the city immediately, fearing further dangers. But upon further thought, with Linziken's strength being so formidable, unless they encountered some extremely powerful high-level rare creature, there likely wouldn't be any danger. Therefore, over the next period, Fuzhou continued to act as a guide for Linziken, cautiously leading him around the outskirts of the danger zone to become familiar with the environment. Before they knew it, 2.5 days had passed. In these 2.5 days, Linziken encountered many exotic plants and beasts, including some that occupied a territory as their domain and were of rare level. Facing these powerful creatures, he didn't even move a muscle. Instead, he simply used Forest Lord to control the multitude of vines that blanketed the sky to kill them all instantly. Then he collected the beast cores and other important evolution resources into his storage space. After 2.5 days like this, his gains were overflowing. Linziken estimated that he had collected so many beast cores that he could earn several thousand contribution points at the exchange hall. Ziai Chen, is there anywhere else you want to get to know? After leading Linziken through the dangers of yet another new territory, Fuzhou stopped walking and turned back to ask wearily. His weariness wasn't caused by a long journey. It was from being astonished by Linziken's evolutionary talent, and he was still in shock. No, that'll be all for now. If there's a chance, we can come out again with you too for training, Lin Zikin replied. He truly felt he had seen enough and now only wanted to return to the city to take out the things from the Land of Oblivion alien's storage bag. And also to turn all the beast cores in his divine sense storage space into contribution points to see what he could buy. A few hours later, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, who had been out training for several days, both safely returned to the city. Under Lin Zikin's lead, Shen Qinghan followed him into the exchange hall. They casually chose a counter with fewer people. Lin Zikin walked up to Q. When it was his turn, he handed over the storage bag that he had taken out in advance and was holding in his hand to one of the counter staff members. The staff member was a woman who looked to be in her 30s. But in actuality, no one knew her real age. Because everyone who could enter the origin land were high-level creatures, and high-level creatures aged slowly. It was impossible to tell their real age just from their appearance. Take this woman at the window, for example, who appeared to be only in her early 30s. However, in reality, she could be a grandma nearly 100 years old. "Hello, I would like to exchange everything in this storage bag for contribution points," Lin Zikin said as he handed over the storage bag. The woman looked surprised when she saw it was a storage bag. "You've just entered the origin land recently, where did you get this storage bag from?" Lin Zikin was very famous in city number 1, pretty much everyone had heard of him. Lin Zikin told the truth, recounting his experiences following Fu Zhou outside the city into the dangerous areas and then encountering an alien from the Land of Oblivion. The woman's eyes widened after listening to him. Aliens from the Land of Oblivion? Aren't they the aliens living on the far west side of the western region of the origin land? How did they appear in the southern domain? The woman had been living in the origin land for over 100 years and knew what this meant. After quickly exchanging Lin Zikin's items for contribution points, she immediately contacted the leaders to report the situation. Lin Zikin didn't care about that. Seeing that he now had up to 4396 contribution points, he quickly went to another area of the hall to exchange for evolutionary resources. After looking around, rare-level evolutionary resources generally required thousands of contribution points for one portion. In the end, Lin Zikin exchanged for 4 rare-level exotic fruits. 2 to enhance Qi blood. And 2 to enhance spirit power. The main thing was to keep it balanced. After doing all this, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan went back to the dormitory and divided up the exchanged resources to consume. Afterwards, Lin Zikin's biological level evolved to high-level 9th order, and Shen Qinghan also evolved to high-level 8th order, bringing their gap back to the original seasonal difference. Amassing resources, evolving to high-level 9th order. After returning to Earth, the male protagonist's parents had a second child, a daughter. After descending to the origin land. The story of Luo Qingxiu. Being an alien, she had always faced discrimination. Once, when the discrimination went too far, Lin Zikin stood up for her. Suddenly, she had an intense headache and remembered something. A voice echoed in her mind. "Give an apology to Bai Shuet. Pinky promise hang oneself not allowed to change for 100 years. It was similar to when she was in the 2nd grade of elementary school. In any case, from that day on, Luo Qingxiu's memories completely recovered, and she remembered why she appeared on Earth, why she dropped out and appeared in the origin land. Luo Qingxiu, playing a curious baby character. For instance, being cold to others but often asking questions in front of familiar faces like Lin Zikin, Shen Qinghan, and Yuan Dongji. For example, why can't creatures live forever, why the creator set a lifespan for everything? Lin Zikin, for the sake of renewal, I guess. Moving on to the protagonist group's story. There were many geniuses in the origin land who were not inferior to Lin Zikin. Add some characters like Wang Jinyang, Qin Fengqing, and others. Showing off after descending to the origin land. Killing aliens allows you to seize tokens, proving you've killed an alien. Killing exotic beasts results in beast cores, proving you've killed an exotic beast. And then there are the source stone mines, source crystals. The human outposts in the origin land have a department responsible for resource recovery. Seized weapons, tokens, beast cores, can all be taken back and exchanged for source points, which can be used to exchange for evolutionary resources. The little sister has grown up. 1 or 2 years old. Doesn't like talking much, appears somewhat simple-minded. But in fact, she's extremely intelligent. Playing with mud while peeing. Being chased by a big goose. Often speaks surprising words, displaying astonishing wisdom. Later on, the story of defending a solitary outpost below the origin land is written. For instance, this outpost in the origin land, everyone had given up on it. Only the protagonist was still holding on. Because Shen Qinghan was still there, he had to stay to guard it, waiting for when Shen Qinghan could leave, and then he'd leave. Basically, it was written very movingly. Making readers cry. P.S. Bowing down, begging for monthly passes and recommendation votes. Chapter 432, 250, Origin Land Forces. Sister of Physical Sanctification. City Lord's Office. Qin Chuan sat at the tea table, sipping freshly brewed hot tea, while listening to an elderly gentleman with graying hair reporting matters to him. The elderly gentleman reporting was the chief manager of the exchange hall, overseeing the entire warehouse's evolution resource exchange. On Earth, he would be comparable to a powerful finance minister with a very high status. You're saying, an alien from the land of oblivion appeared in the dangerous zones outside the city. Qin Chuan put down the teacup he had finished, his eyebrows raised slightly in surprise as he asked. The exchange hall's manager, an old man known as Old Li, nodded and said. Yes, an alien from the land of oblivion appeared in the dangerous zone. Lin Zikan, Shen Qinghan, Fu Zhou and Wu Xia encountered it during their expedition outside the city. It is understood that the alien from the land of oblivion had a biological level as high as rare level but was instantly strangled by the thick crimson vines controlled by Lin Zikan, without a chance to fight back. This kid who grew up on Earth has an unimaginably strong power. As Old Li spoke, he turned the conversation to Lin Zikan, expressing his disbelief at the talent of the newcomer who had made such a big impact in the origin land after arriving not long ago. Having lived for nearly 1,000 years, he had never seen an Earthling as talented as Lin Zikan. After listening, Qin Chuan said, I'm aware of this. I'll dispatch a reconnaissance team outside the city later to check what exactly is happening. Old Li, City Lord, if there's nothing else, I'll head back to the exchange hall to get busy. Go ahead. Qin Chuan gestured with his hand, signaling him to leave quickly. After Old Li left, Qin Chuan fell into deep thought, pondering what purpose the alien from the land of oblivion had for coming to the southern domain. Could it be that the Sun Moon Sacred Land and the land of oblivion had joined forces? It seemed unlikely. There must be some other reason. While Qin Chuan was deep in thought, the office door was knocked on. It was Lin Zikan knocking from outside, along with Shen Qinghan. City Lord, I have something I need to discuss with you. Lin Zikan's voice came from outside the door. Qin Chuan, with a calm expression, replied, Come in directly. Creak. A heavy door-opening sound filled the room. Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan entered, standing respectfully at the table. What is it? Qin Chuan guessed it was about the Land of Oblivion incident but still asked. However, Lin Zikan didn't mention the alien from the Land of Oblivion. Instead, he said. City Lord, we'd like to return to Earth for a bit. We've already spoken to Instructor Lan, and he said he can't decide on this matter, that we need your permission. As Lin Zikan said this, he was quite puzzled in his heart. Why did he need the City Lord's approval for a simple trip back to Earth? Was the City Lord so idle? Did he manage every trivial matter? As Lin Zikan pondered this, Qin Chuan asked, I remember that you two have only just arrived in the origin land not long ago. What are you doing going back to Earth? Lin Zikin, my mom is expecting a second child, and by now, she should have given birth. I want to go back and see my little sister. Hearing that the two wanted to return to Earth just for that reason, Qin Chuan said expressionlessly, returning to Earth after just over a month in the origin land is a bit too capricious. Wait until you've stayed for 3 months. And then you can go back. Each transport through the biological channel requires the consumption of a vast amount of origin force. Origin force comes from source crystals or beast cores, or other rare evolution resources, all of which are obtained at the cost of our fellow beings' lives, and cannot be wasted like this. You two must stay for at least 3 months before you can return to Earth. That's the basic rule. It was the first time Lin Zikin heard of such a rule, and he genuinely didn't expect it. However, he didn't dwell on it and respectfully said, "Understood," before quickly leaving with Shen Qinghan. If such a rule existed, they would comply with it and wait for 3 months before returning to Earth. Since they had been there for nearly 2 months already, it wouldn't be much longer. In the dormitory. On the bed. Shen Qinghan sat with her knees hugged to her chest, leaning against the headboard, her mood somewhat downcast as she said, "I really want to go back to Earth now to see Mom and Dad, but the City Lord said we have to stay for at least 3 months before we can go back. That's so long." "It is a while." Lin Zikin rubbed Shen Qinghan's body and comforted her, saying, "But we've already been in the origin land for almost 2 months. Another month and a bit more, and we can go back. It'll be quick." "True." Shen Qinghan nodded, then turned her head to look at Lin Zikin beside her, her voice oozing with desire. "Ziai Chen, I'm so bored, let's do it, shall we?" "Yeah, let's." Lin Zikin agreed without a second thought. In the origin land without phones or computers, the lack of entertainment options was severe. In such an environment, intimacy between men and women was essentially the best form of entertainment. "I forgot to bring condoms when coming in, and the box in the storage space is almost out." Lin Zikin glanced at the box of ultra-thin condoms in the storage space and noticed there were only 2 left, not even enough for today. Shen Qinghan didn't mind at all, "It's fine, if we get pregnant, then we'll have the child. We're only 19, too young." "Not too young. Let's consider having children in a few years." "All right then. Okay, we'll do it twice today, less than usual, and next time we come to the origin land, we'll buy more condoms to put in the storage space." "Actually, there's no need, I can control liquids at will, so it doesn't matter whether we use them or not." Shen Qinghan looked into Lin Zikin's eyes and said. Upon hearing this, Lin Zikin was completely stunned. Chapter 433, 250, Origin Land Forces. Sister of Physical Sanctification, _2. He actually never thought about this. Yet. The dirty girl is really good at playing with water and can manipulate liquids at will, so it doesn't really matter whether she wears a condom or not, right? I was busy for nothing before. Thinking about this, Lin Zikin asked, "How come you didn't mention such an important thing earlier?" "I only just thought of it." "Alright, we're both dumbass. Never mind being dumb, let's do it quickly, I can hardly wait." Shen Qinghan urged impatiently. Now that she had developed a taste for it, going a day without doing it with Lin Zikin at least 10 times felt unbearable. For her, this was the essence of evolution. Several days later. In the dormitory. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan sat on the bed together. Reading a manual titled Origin Land Forces. Ever since hearing Fu Zhou talk about the origin land being divided into 5 regions, he had been very concerned about it and had specially looked up relevant information. "Lin Ziai, you're flipping through the pages so fast, it's making my head spin," said Shen Qinghan, unable to help but complain as she saw Lin Zikin flipping the pages fast enough to leave after images, basically scanning the page before turning to the next one. She considered herself smart and had an extraordinary memory, but next to Lin Zikin, she felt as powerless as a mentally challenged girl with a 0 IQ. "Let me read it first, then you can take your time after I'm done," said Lin Zikin, flipping through the book rapidly while speaking casually. Having the Tianren wisdom root, he could read 10 lines in a single glance without forgetting anything he had read, which unfortunately, didn't accommodate Shen Qinghan's reading speed. He had to be a bit selfish, reading through first and then letting Shen Qinghan take her time with it later. About 2 minutes later, Lin Zikin finished reading the entire Origin Land Forces manual and had a deeper understanding of Origin Land. Origin Land was divided into 5 regions: Central Region, Eastern Region, Western Region, Southern Domain, and Northern Region. The Central Region was a vast ruin, harboring a large number of relics and the most ancient civilization of Origin Land, a forbidden area that opened regularly. Most of the mythical level creatures in Origin Land were born in the Central Region. The Eastern Region was an endless plain with many seas and lakes, home to countless mysterious and powerful aquatic creatures. The Western Region was an extremely desolate territory with an oppressive atmosphere of death, inhabited by various unique underworld creatures. The Southern Domain was a world of mountains and forests with extremely abundant evolution resources, home to the most powerful terrestrial creatures. Major forces like Sun Moon Sacred Land and Green Hills Ancient Mountain were located in the Southern Domain. The Earthlings had established their bases at the source points in Origin Land because all the biological passages connecting the two worlds were in the Southern Domain. The Northern Region was a land of extreme cold with very few creatures and scarce evolution resources, not very popular. Besides the 5 major regions, Origin Land had a special domain, the Abyss. Every corner of Origin Land might contain an abyss. The Abyss was a life-forbidden zone, even legendary level creatures who ventured there often faced life and death, and to this day it remained shrouded in mystery. No one knew how the abysses came about or their cause. Beyond knowing that the Abyss was dangerous, almost nothing was understood about it. So are Earth's enemies Sun Moon Sacred Land? And there's the Eastern Region with its many seas and lakes, perhaps traveling there could unveil the secrets on the dirty girl. I'll have to take a trip to the Eastern Region when the opportunity arises. Lin Zikin thought quietly to himself. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. There were less than 10 days left until the day they could return to Earth. Shen Qinghan looked forward to it every day so much that every day felt like a year, and time seemed to pass incredibly slowly. This morning, just as dawn broke, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan woke up early and sat quietly on the bed, attempting to break through their acupoints. While other members of the alien human-level genius team had mostly left the city to experience and strive for evolution resources. The two of them could indeed become stronger by breaking through their acupoints, but it required a certain amount of evolution resources as well. The reason they didn't join others outside the city for experience was because they were about to return to Earth to visit their parents, and they didn't want to miss the chance by being delayed on an outing. Quickly, several more days went by. There was only 1 day left before completing their 3-month stay in the city. Because of this, Shen Qinghan was so excited that she didn't sleep at all the entire night, pulling Lin Zikin into making love with her all night long. She had never gone so long without contacting her parents in her life. 3 whole months without contact made her yearning for her parents soar to the sky. Staying in the dorm is so boring, let's be lazy today and skip the acupointment breakthrough. Let's go outside for a walk and breathe some fresh air, Shen Qinghan said in a somewhat coquettish voice. Lin Zikin himself didn't feel like working on acupoints either, missing his parents at home and curious about his sister, so he left the dormitory with Shen Qinghan to take a walk outside. Wandering aimlessly around the city, chatting on and off, they found themselves near the city gates before they knew it. Let's go up to the high wall and have a look, Lin Zikin suggested. With the eye of the sky, he wanted to stand on the tall wall of the city gate to get a broader view of the landscape outside the city. Shen Qinghan smiled and responded, "Sure, I'd like to go up there for some fresh air too." The two of them agreed and quickly climbed up to the top of the city wall. Just as they reached the top, 2 figures in the stable area outside the city gate were running for their lives, heading towards the city. With the enhancement of the Eye of the Sky, Lin Zikin noticed these two figures immediately. They were very familiar. Chapter 434, 250, Origin Land Forces. Sister of Physical Sanctification, _3. It was exactly Zhao Qingxian and Zhang Tao from the team, the so-called Kings of Scale. At this moment, one was desperately running, while the other was being carried on a run. The one being carried was Zhao Qingxian. Lin Zikin took a closer look and noticed that Zhao Qingxian had multiple wounds on his body. The wounds were tinged with strands of black aura. The black aura looked very familiar. It was identical to what he had seen on the aliens from the land of Oblivion before. Soon, the guards on the high wall saw Zhang Tao and Zhao Qingxian through special observation tools, and immediately opened the city gate to let the two men in. Upon entering the city gate, Zhang Tao was so exhausted that he collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. The Zhao Qingxian he had been carrying on his back was now unconscious with a pale face, and his condition seemed very critical. What happened? The captain of the guards on duty came forward to check on the situation of the two men without delay. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan also jumped down from the high wall to see what had happened to these two. Outside the city, the dangerous areas. There are many aliens from the land of Oblivion. Zhang Tao kept panting heavily, his breath very irregular as he answered. Hearing this, the expression of the guard captain turned solemn instantly, and he immediately arranged for the two men to be sent to the medical center for treatment while reporting the incident to the higher UPS. Lin Zikin's expression also turned grave. The appearance of many aliens from the land of Oblivion in the dangerous areas was not a good sign. It was possible that Earth would have to contend with another enemy in the future. Some time later, in the afternoon, news came from the city lord. For the near future, it was advised that individuals with a biological level lower than rare should not leave the city, to avoid unnecessary losses. In the evening, back in the dorm, having nothing better to do, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan were on their beds, doing some work while chatting. I wonder how that young man named Zhao Qingxian is doing now. When he entered the city, his wounds were continuously oozing black liquid, which looked quite severe. Shen Qinghan said with a tremble in her voice. Lin Zikin responded actively, I think he should be fine. A rare level being's physical self-healing ability is extremely strong. As long as he gets timely treatment at the medical center, he should recover quickly. Ziai Chen, why do you think those aliens from the land of Oblivion suddenly appeared in groups in the dangerous area outside the city? What are they trying to do? Shen Qinghan said, somewhat perplexed. Lin Zikin replied indifferently, not sure, maybe they are scouting the area, planning to attack city number 1. What? Shen Qinghan's face changed abruptly. Lin Zikin's conjecture frightened her and made her feel very uneasy. If those aliens from the land of Oblivion really were scouting the area, then city number 1 was destined to face a great battle, and with it, countless casualties. Seeing Shen Qinghan's pretty face covered with anxiety, Lin Zikin offered a comforting smile, I'm just speculating, don't panic. The next day, just as dawn was breaking, after spending 3 months in the origin land, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, lightly packed, left the dormitory and returned to Earth through the spacious biological passage. The exit of City No. 1's biological passage was located at the military district headquarters in Capital City. After coming out, they took a military helicopter for nearly half an hour before arriving at their long-awaited Shanghai University. Once off the helicopter, they headed straight for the family area of the outer school district, eager to see their parents who they had not contacted for over 3 months. The two had not informed their parents of their return in advance, hoping to surprise them after not having seen them for many days. Aren't you going to visit your own home first to see Uncle Ye and Aunt Meng? In front of his house, Lin Zikin took out his keys to unlock the door, and upon seeing Shen Qinghan following him inside, he turned to ask her this. Shen Qinghan replied eagerly, there's no rush. I have plenty of time to see my parents. Right now I just want to see little sister Ziying. I want to see her too. Lin Zikin smiled and then inserted the key into the lock, opened the door, and walked in with Shen Qinghan. Now, he had suppressed his sensorial perception to that of an ordinary human and didn't know what the situation inside the house was like. The reason he did this was to give himself a surprise. He wanted to open a blind box, to see what his sister, whom he had never met, really looked like. Zi Chen, I can hear the sound of a keyboard from the study. Your uncle and Aunt Xin really love writing novels, hey? It's only just past 8 in the morning and they've already started typing. Shen Qinghan said with a laugh. Lin Zikin also laughed, that's just how my parents are. I've told them to stop writing and enjoy a life of financial freedom, but they just can't sit still. Shen Qinghan asked, do you think little sister is in her room sleeping or in the study drinking milk? She too had reduced her sensory perception to that of a normal person and could not sense the specific situation inside the house through the walls. Lin Zikin guessed, she should be in her room sleeping, right? Infants usually sleep a lot. No sooner had he spoken than a female infant wearing a diaper and holding a pacifier in her mouth, whizzed past the two of them. She crawled so fast that, like a roach, she scurried away in the blink of an eye. Lin Zikin's eyes widened in shock, and he was taken aback. How could this infant, who looked only about a month old, crawl so fast? Had she achieved physical sanctification? P.S. Bowls out, begging for monthly passes and recommendation tickets. Chapter 435, 251, My sister possesses a mythical beauty. Lin Zi, the baby girl who just zoomed by, is that Ziying little sister? How does she crawl so fast? She looks to be just a month old, doesn't she? Shen Qinghan was shocked, her delicate pretty face filled with disbelief. The most talented person she had ever seen was Lin Zikin, right beside her. But when Lin Zikin was a baby, he also took several months to crawl quickly. How could it be that this 1-month-old baby moved around the house like a cockroach? What exactly was going on? Meanwhile, Lin Zikin watched his little sister crawl around the room quickly, feeling a mix of emotions. He had always hoped his sister was a local, not wanting her to be a transmigrator like himself. But from the scene before him, it seemed most likely that his sister was a transmigrator too. One with cheat codes included in her transmigration. Otherwise, how could she crawl as fast as a cockroach at just 1 month old? This wasn't like a baby at all. While Lin Zikin was thinking about all this, the baby girl, wearing a diaper, moved her plump little hands and feet like they had motors attached, crawling swiftly from the front balcony toward the living room. When she was about to reach him, she saw Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan standing in the living room, and she momentarily paused in shock, sitting still as she stared at them with her big watery caracal eyes. The next second, she suddenly knitted her brows and opened her little mouth to start wailing loudly. Wah wah wah! The instant the crying began, an anxious flurry of movements could be heard from the study. Soon after, Lin Yanzheng and Zhang Wangzhen hurriedly emerged through the door. Baby, what's wrong when did you two get back? Zhang Wangzhen, upon seeing Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan standing in the living room, paused for a moment before her face filled with a joyous smile, momentarily forgetting her crying daughter on the floor. She might have forgotten about her daughter, but her daughter certainly hadn't forgotten about her. Wah wah wah! Seeing Zhang Wangzhen come out, the baby girl continued crying while she quickly crawled over, clung to Zhang Wangzhen's leg, and cried even louder, making everyone's ears ring with the sound. She cried with such vigor. Was this really a baby who had just turned a month old? Lin Zikin was deeply astonished. It's okay, baby girl, don't cry, this is your brother Chen, this is your sister Qinghan, they are family just like mom and dad, dear to you. Zhang Wangzhen picked up the baby girl and held her, gently patting her back and soothingly comforting her. Under Zhang Wangzhen's skilled comforting, the baby girl quickly stopped crying, only lying against her shoulder with teary eyes. Shen Qinghan walked over, curiously examining the infant in Zhang Wangzhen's arms, and asked. Aunt Xian, Ziying's sister just crawled so fast in the living room, she clearly looks to be just a month old, what's going on with that? I'm not sure either. Just half a month ago President Liu and Principal Yuan brought someone to give the baby a physical examination and said that she was born with physical sanctification, extraordinary among others, a pure-blooded talent like never before. Zhang Wangzhen replied. Hearing this answer from his own mother, Lin Zikin was a bit puzzled. Was his sister really that outrageous? Not even pretending in front of others and just revealing all her talents outright. Could it be his sister was not a transmigrator, but a local? Merely born with extremely strong physical talents? Not on the same level as him? The more Lin Zikin thought about it, the more possible it seemed. Because he noticed that his sister's expressions and gestures were very consistent with a month-old baby and didn't have the slightest feeling of an adult soul, completely unlike when he was a baby. Come on, son, hold your little sister. She's especially adorable with her chubby flesh. Zhang Wangzhen approached Lin Zikin and handed over the baby girl, letting the brother hold his sister. Lin Zikin looked at the month-old diapered baby girl before him, and felt a strange sense of nostalgia, as if he had returned to the moment he first saw Shen Qinghan 19 years ago. Soon, he reached out to take the baby girl, held her, and with a warm smile said, Ying Ying, I'm your big brother. Remember what I look like so you won't cry out loud when you see me next time. As he spoke, he dispersed his spiritual power to sense the baby girl's physical body. After sensing for a while, he was shocked to discover that the chi blood strength inside the baby girl was comparable to that of a normally developed 3-year-old child. Only a month old, and her chi blood strength was already equal to that of a 3-year-old. This physical talent was too exaggerated. It was simply unbelievable. He could totally proclaim that phrase, my sister has the physique of a legend. Suddenly, the baby girl furrowed her tiny brows, her face showing discomfort, as if something was wrong with her body. Lin Zikin was still wondering what was wrong with his sister. The next second, there came a pft, pft, pft spraying sound. The inside of the baby girl's diaper immediately let out an odor that was not very pleasant. The smell reached Lin Zikin, whose face suddenly changed. Shit! My sister has pooped her pants. She must be a local for sure. Which transmigrator could poop their pants in a situation where they can crawl as fast as cockroaches? Why does the baby have diarrhea again? Could it be that there's some issue with her digestive system? I must take her to get checked again this afternoon. Zhang Wangzhen took the baby girl back from Lin Zikin's arms. While skillfully changing the baby's diaper, she frowned and said. Lin Zikin asked in confusion, Mom, does my sister often get diarrhea? Without waiting for Zhang Wangzhen's response, Lin Yanzheng spoke from the side, she does get diarrhea often, but I think there shouldn't be any issue, it's just your mother worrying too much. Your sister doesn't drink milk now. She eats exotic beast meat and exotic fruit specially provided by Principal Yuan for every meal. With nutrition so rich, it's normal for her to not be able to absorb it all and get diarrhea. I'm not just making this up, it was Principal Yuan who said this a few days ago, saying it's a normal situation. Zhang Wangzhen gave Lin Yanzheng an unsatisfied look and said irritably, there's always a what if. You're too carefree as a father, I really can't leave our daughter with you. It has to be me who personally takes care of her. Lin Zikin ignored his parents' squabbling and intently watched his little sister sucking her thumb, feeling more and more convinced she was a local. Cry at the drop of a hat. And stop just as suddenly. Poop in the pants. And even likes sucking her own fingers. This baby's characteristics are totally maxed out. Origin land. Southern domain. Within a colossal flower palace. A man shrouded in dark mist, standing with his hands behind his back in front of a breathtakingly beautiful woman, spoke in a voice laden with death, Thorn Fairy, have you considered cooperating with our Land of Oblivion to launch a surprise attack on City Number 1 in half a month and take back the biological passageway there? I would be very willing. Unfortunately, this is not something I can decide on my own. The scantily clad Thorn Fairy said with a coquettish smile in her voice. The man asked, then who can make the decision? Of course, it's our flower god, the Thorn Fairy said seductively. P.S. This is all I can update today. I went to get my wisdom teeth removed this afternoon. It took nearly 2 hours to remove a horizontally impacted wisdom tooth. The trauma was a bit severe, my face is swollen, and now I feel dizzy from the pain. Chapter 436, 252, Time to Have a Child. The Invasion of the Land of Oblivion. In the evening, in the living room. 2 families, 7 people in total, sat together for dinner in a warm and joyous atmosphere. How long can you 2 stay this time? While serving Shen Qinghan food, Zhang Wangzhen asked in a gentle voice. Shen Qinghan's eyes curved slightly, and she said with an especially sweet smile, probably half a month. That's good, Zhang Wangzhen smiled, her eyes filled with indulgence. Today is October 6th, and in a week it will be both of your 20th birthdays, we can just celebrate in time. While his mother and fiancé were chatting, Lin Zikan was surveying his little sister in his mother's arms. Lin Ziying, who had just turned a month old, was sitting obediently on Zhang Wangzhen's thigh, gnawing on a big bird leg with relish. It was the leg meat of a ferocious great eagle, particularly tough, so tough that even adults would find it hard to gnaw. But Lin Ziying, who was only this big, could rely on her tiny milk teeth. The sight was truly astonishing. In the days that followed, Lin Zikan, apart from working on his acupoints, deepening his relationship with Shen Qinghan in bed, and spending time with his parents, spent the rest of his time observing his younger sister, Lin Ziying. From these days of observations, he was absolutely certain that this sister was a local, with no possibility of being a transmigrator. This sister cries at least 10 times a day, is always pooping and peeing in her pants, no different from a normal baby. The only difference was that this sister's physical strength was severely unmatched for her age, learning to walk at just over a month old, which was incredibly heaven-defying. After dinner, Shen Qinghan picked up Lin Ziying and kissed her chubby little face, laughing, Ying Ying's eyes are so big and watery, when she grows up her appearance will surely be very attractive, just like your brother Chen, a heartthrob for everyone. Lin Zikan said, Ying Ying is a girl, she would take after you, I'm a boy. As Shen Qinghan teased Lin Ziying, she dismissively said, it's different, I've never been a heartthrob, I used to be disliked by a lot of people when I was studying. You were the heartthrob. From childhood to adulthood, whether boys or girls, everyone liked you. With Ying Ying's innate physical gift, once she starts school, she's definitely going to dominate her peers, just like you used to, leaving them breathless. No one will dare to dislike her, they'll only like her. Lin Zikan couldn't argue with that, it was the truth. If a person is just good looking but not outstanding in other aspects, she will certainly be envied and disliked by others. But if that person is not only good looking but also outperforms everyone else in strength, then everyone will like her, and envy wouldn't even come into question. Because they are simply not from the same world, there's no point in feeling envious. Ying Ying's hands are so delicate, with long fingernails, just as pretty as yours, said Shen Qinghan as she took Lin Ziying's small hand and gently rubbed her palm, speaking to Lin Zikan on the side. Just as she finished speaking, Lin Ziying, perhaps feeling tickled or something, suddenly grabbed Shen Qinghan's index finger and held on tightly. Sister has such strength, being held by her little hand feels like being clamped by pliers, Shen Qinghan said, her pretty face showing surprise after feeling Lin Zikan's force. Lin Zikan was not surprised, he had long sensed the qi blood strength in his sister Lin Ziying's body, as high as that of a few years old child, her great strength was normal. Ah, sister peed on me! Shen Qinghan suddenly exclaimed, feeling somewhat at a loss and unsure how to deal with it. Lin Zikin laughed. When you were little, you were like this too, always wetting your pants. Oh, stop teasing me, go get a mop and clean up the floor, Shen Qinghan said with no good humor. Lin Zikin, at a loss for words, why do we need a mop, have you forgotten your water-based? Oh right, I actually forgot that, she said. With that, Shen Qinghan simply thought about it, and the liquid peed out by Lin Ziying levitated, flying towards the potted plants on the balcony for a bit of pure natural fertilizer. On the sofa, the parents from both families, seeing this scene, couldn't help but show a smile on their faces. The picture of Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan with their sister Lin Ziying looked like a family of three, radiating with the aura of happiness. After we get through the birthdays next week, Han Han will be 20 years old, reaching the legal age for marriage. Zhang Wangzhen looked at Shen Qinghan ahead, her face full of ant-like smiles. Lin Yanzheng, munching on seeds, said, Han Han being of legal marriage age is useless, our son still has to wait 2 more years to be old enough to marry. Yes, yes, you know best, Zhang Wangzhen shot Lin Yanzheng a dissatisfied glance, feeling that her husband was really a buzzkill with his words. Across from her, Su Meng smiled and said, legal marriage age isn't a big deal, we two families can hold a banquet first, tie the knot for the 2 kids, and then get the marriage certificate when they're of age later. Upon hearing this, Shen Jianyi hurriedly waved his hands, it's not urgent these 2 years, let's just wait until 22 to do it, after all, the 2 of them are already bound. I'm in a hurry if you're not. Su Meng glared at Shen Jianyi, internally grumbling about how all the men in both families were the same, such a dampener. A few days later, on October 14th. This day was Shen Qinghan's birthday, while Lin Zikin's birthday was yesterday. As per tradition, they have always celebrated their birthdays together from childhood, and this year it happened to fall on Shen Qinghan's birthday. In the evening, both families celebrated in the living room. Yuan Dongji, Lu Juanwu, Song Yuan, and Li Chuxin all attended, invited separately by Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan. Chapter 437, 252, Time to have a child. The invasion of the land of Oblivion, _2. At the birthday party, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, as in previous years, were exchanging gifts with each other. The former gave the latter a silk dress that he had tailored himself, the craftsmanship of which was far superior to any top designer in the world, making Li Chuxin appear green with envy. Shen Qinghan gave him a painting depicting 20 pairs of men and women, each pair representing a year they had grown up together, a special extravagance. Amid the jeers of everyone present, Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan embraced and kissed, leaving behind a photo worth remembering. After the birthday party, Lu Juanwu came over with a glass of red wine and asked Lin Zikin, Ziai Chen, you've been in the origin land for a whole 3 months, do you have any news of the pavilion master? As soon as these words were uttered, Yuan Dongji, Song Yuan, and Li Chuxin all looked over, deeply concerned about this matter. Lin Zikin, teasing the sister he held in his arms, calmly replied, the news I've gathered is that the pavilion master has refined many exotic beasts below, then broke into a ruin. What ruin? Lu Juanwu was an archaeologist, who had devoted nearly half his life to the study of ruins and was very interested in the one mentioned by Lin Zikin. Lin Zikin put down his sister to let her crawl around and said, I'm not too clear on the specifics, I heard this from the city lord of city number 1, and that's all he told me. I see. Lu Juanwu nodded his head, not inquiring further. At this moment, Yuan Dongji asked, how do the 2 of you get along with Kyungsu in the origin land? Lin Zikin, we haven't had much interaction. Upon hearing this, Yuan Dongji showed understanding, that child is somewhat reclusive. Hardly anyone can get along with her. Having said that, she asked another question, does Kyungsu not remember you too? Shen Qinghan replied, yes, sister apprentice doesn't remember Lin Ziai or me at all, only saying our names sound a bit familiar. I see. Yuan Dongji nodded her head just like Lu Juanwu had earlier, showing a married couple's synchrony. Lin Zikan turned to Yuan Dongji and asked, "By the way, Principal Yuan, how's the public safety on Earth now, has it improved from before?" Qi Qingmo had nearly eradicated the divine plant cult before entering the origin land. Without the divine plant cult stirring trouble, Earth's situation should have stabilized a lot. So Lin Zikan thought. And Yuan Dongji's next answer was indeed just as he had envisioned. Yuan Dongji said lightly, "Since your pavilion master slaughtered almost all of the divine plant cult's higher UPS, there are far fewer traders on Earth, and the situation has settled down a lot. You hardly see any traders causing trouble anymore." "That's good." Lin Zikan felt much more at ease. In the past 3 months, what he was most worried about was the safety of his parents at home. Having heard Yuan Dongji's words, he was immediately reassured. "Ziai Chen, what's the situation like in the origin land?" Now it was Yuan Dongji's turn to ask, with her and Lin Zikan essentially exchanging information about Earth and the origin land. Lin Zikan shook his head, "Although no major war has broken out, the situation doesn't look good." "Yuan Dongji, what do you mean?" Lin Zikan explained, "A few days before King Han and I returned to Earth, many aliens from the Land of Oblivion appeared in the dangerous areas outside City Number 1, and some of the people who went out of the city for trials were attacked by these aliens." "Aliens from the Land of Oblivion?" Yuan Dongji's expression turned serious, puzzled. "Isn't the Land of Oblivion at the very edge of the western region? Why would they come to the southern domain all of a sudden?" "Western region? Southern domain? What exactly were these two talking about?" Lu Juanwu, Song Yuan, and Li Chuxin were a bit confused, listening. The trio didn't know much about the origin land and couldn't understand the conversation between Lin Zikan and Yuan Dongji. Could it be that the aliens from the Land of Oblivion have teamed up with the exotic plants from the Sun Moon Sacred Land? After thinking for a while, Yuan Dongji came up with such a conjecture. Lin Zikan indicated that he was not clear. His understanding of the origin land was even more limited than Yuan Dongji's, making it difficult to come up with any reasonable guesses. In the blink of an eye, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan had been on Earth for half a month, and it was time to return to the origin land to shine and contribute. Both families' parents, along with the innocent Lin Xing, got up early to see the two off. Seeing her older brother and sister about to leave, 2-month-old Lin Xing suddenly burst into tears with a loud wah. In the past half a month, she had enjoyed the company of her brother and sister, who were almost 20 years older, and she didn't want them to leave. "Ying Ying, don't cry, brother and sister will come back to see you very soon and bring you lots of delicious things," Shen Qinghan said softly, comforting her while holding Lin Xing's little hand. Lin Xing, who couldn't understand, just roared like an angry dragon, crying loudly. Zhang Wangzhen gently rocked her daughter in her arms and said to Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan, "Your sister is only 2 months old now, she can't understand your comfort. Why don't you two have a baby soon, so your sister can have a playmate?" Hearing this, Lin Zikan couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth slightly. He thought that after Zhang Wangzhen had her second child, she wouldn't press him and Shen Qinghan to have kids anymore. It seemed he had been a bit too optimistic. Now that his parents were financially independent and no longer needed to struggle for a living, they certainly wanted as many grandchildren around as possible. "Yes, King Han, why don't you and Lin Zai have a baby soon? Your dad and I want to hold our grandchild," Su Meng said, looking at Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan didn't know how to respond and silently turned to look at Lin Zikan beside her. She too wanted to have a child soon, but it was up to Lin Zikan, and being of a weaker disposition, she couldn't decide on her own. Facing everyone's expectant gazes, Lin Zikan felt a lot of pressure. Eventually, he dropped the words, "Mom and Dad, I'm off," and quickly took Shen Qinghan's hand and led her towards the administrative building in the inner school campus. Right now, he truly had no thoughts about having children, and the pressure from his parents was a bit much for him, so he could only make a run for it. Lin Ziyi, when do you want to have children? On the way to the administrative building, Shen Qinghan hesitated before asking this question. Lin Zikan asked her, do you really want to have children? Yes, I really do. Shen Qinghan nodded in reply. Seeing that she had said she really wanted to, Lin Zikan thought for a moment, then said, let's wait until after you turn 22 to get our marriage certificate, we can have a baby after that. Shen Qinghan's face immediately lit up with a smile, okay. She'd been dreaming of having a child for Lin Zikan, and now that she had received a definite answer from him, it was hard not to feel happy. She would probably wake up laughing in her sleep tonight. Very soon, they arrived at the rooftop of the administrative building. At 8 a.m. sharp, the roar of a helicopter sounded overhead on time. Seeing the helicopter arrive, Lin Zikan scooped up Shen Qinghan and leaped up to fly into the helicopter's cabin. Shortly after, they arrived at the military district headquarters in capital city. Passing through the long biological corridor, they returned to the origin land after half a month. This time, unlike their initial visit, they didn't feel uncomfortable. After the previous 3 months of acclimatization, both were basically immune to the rejection of domain power, as free as fish in water. Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan walked towards their dormitory, intending to take out the load of daily necessities they had brought from home so they wouldn't occupy space in their storage space. On the way to the dormitory, Lin Zikan noticed significant changes in the environment of the city. The guards had increased on the high walls of the city gate. Moreover, the atmosphere in the city was somewhat oppressive, with an inexplicable heaviness. Had something happened? With this question in mind, Lin Zikan specifically stopped a guard who was hurrying by and asked, "Brother, has something happened in the city?" The guard was in a hurry and didn't want to stop and waste time. But seeing that it was Lin Zikan who had inquired, the city's most noted super genius, he stopped and replied with a wry smile, "In the half-month you were back on Earth, the aliens from the Land of Oblivion and the Sun-Moon Sacred Land jointly attacked the city, and many people died. Now, the dangerous areas outside the city have been completely taken over by the Land of Oblivion and the Sun-Moon Sacred Land. The situation is very bad. P.S. Holding out my bowl, asking for monthly passes and recommendation tickets." Chapter 438, 253. City Defense Battle. The Great War is imminent. In the dormitory. After learning about the situation in the city, Lin Zikan's brow remained tightly furrowed and would not relax. The Land of Oblivion and the Sun-Moon Sacred Land had joined forces to attack City 1, causing massive casualties. 2 alien human-level geniuses Nangang Liuyun and Qian Yifei were killed. Lin Zikan remembered these two, they were his opponents when he first entered Origin Land to take the test. Unexpectedly, they died so suddenly it was very abrupt. Additionally, several epic-level experts and dozens of rare-level fighters were sacrificed, resulting in extremely heavy losses. Origin Land was indeed fraught with dangers. No matter how talented or powerful, anyone could fall. Because Origin Land harbored too many powerful creatures. These creatures were far stronger than Earthlings on average and posed a significant threat to them. Now, the aliens from the Land of Oblivion and the exotic plants from the Sun-Moon Sacred Land had completely occupied the dangerous zones in the city, meaning the people there could no longer go out for training. This path to obtaining evolution resources was completely blocked. If we can't acquire evolution resources, then what's the point of my going to Origin Land? Maybe should I apply for a transfer to a different city? But even the most powerful city one has been attacked, the situation in other cities is likely only more bleak. The more Lin Zikan thought about it, the more upset he became. Without sufficient evolution resources to support him, even high evolutionary talent would be useless, he simply couldn't grow. Shen Qinghan, who had just come out of the shower, saw Lin Zikan's distressed expression. Sensibly, she climbed onto the bed, wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him, saying, "Want to relax a bit? Just lie there, I'll help you relax." Guaranteed comfort. Not knowing how to comfort the troubled Linziken with words, she could only try to relieve his stress in the most primal way. Linziken said nothing, quietly laying flat to receive Shen Qinghan's attentions. They were an old married couple by now, and everything was second nature. Words of gratitude weren't necessary and would seem out of place. Half an hour later, Linziken left the dormitory with Shen Qinghan, looking refreshed and headed towards the city gate. He wanted to climb the high walls and, with the aid of the eye of the sky, survey the dangerous zone. To see what exactly was happening there at the moment. Soon, the two climbed the city gate's high wall. Shen Qinghan, lacking the eye of the sky, could only clearly see up to a few thousand meters away and could not discern what exactly the situation was in the dangerous zone 50 li away. She just quietly stood by, letting the wind blow, accompanying Linziken. Linziken initiated his advanced spirit and maxed out his spiritual strength, then used Eye of the Sky again, extending his vision to the dangerous area 50 li away. Immediately, what came into view was a vast and alarming sight of thorn-covered giants. These thorny brambles, like thick venomous snakes, twisted around the skyscraping giant trees, emitting an icy aura. Just looking from afar, one could feel an overwhelming invisible pressure. His vision extended further, through the dense foliage. In the center of the thorn forest, Linziken saw many massive buds standing alone on the ground like mushrooms, growing densely packed. The surfaces of these huge buds were covered with pulsating veins, seemingly gestating some terrifying creatures inside. After observing for a few minutes, Linziken saw one of the buds slowly bloom, revealing a seductively postured woman with only a few leaves clinging to her body. Then, he saw a man enveloped in dense black aura enter the bud and intertwine intimately with the seductive woman. Linziken wanted to watch more. Suddenly, the man and woman in the bud, 50 li away, turned their heads simultaneously to look towards him. Before he could react, a sharp pain swiftly swept over his eyes, causing him to hiss in pain and close his eyes, tears leaking out. In that instant, he felt his eyes had been exposed to intense light. Now his vision was pitch black, seeing nothing. Zi Chen, what's wrong? Seeing Linziken suddenly bending down to rub his eyes, appearing very uncomfortable, Shen Qinghan hurriedly expressed her concern. At that moment, Linziken's eyes were bleeding, the pain searing, but he kept his hands over his eyes to prevent Shen Qinghan from seeing, calmly saying, "It's nothing, just need to rest a bit." He wasn't lying. Indeed, it was just a matter of resting for a bit. Under the effect of rapid self-healing, his injured eyes quickly returned to normal, showing no signs of having been hurt. Just what happened? How did just a glance hurt my eyes? And that was over a distance of 50 li. How did those two manage that? Linziken felt a deep shock for the first time and a sense of fear. The strong in Origin Land were too numerous and powerful, making him acutely aware that he was but an ant. An insignificant ant that could be crushed underfoot at any moment. No, I must become stronger quickly, gain enough power to protect myself, and can't continue to evolve slowly like before. Linziken thought silently to himself. In the dangerous area 50 li outside the city. In the deepest part. Within a giant bud. The Thorn Fairy, puzzled at the man with her, asked, "What just happened? How could that earthling with only rare-level spiritual strength peek at us from 50 li away? Moreover, when he was looking at us, I felt as if I was being stared at by a ferocious great eagle." Chapter 439, 253. Citadel Defense Battle. War is about to erupt, _2. But I didn't find the will of the ferocious great eagle in his spiritual power. What exactly is going on? The Thorn Fairy grew more puzzled as he spoke, feeling that the matter had exceeded his understanding. The man shrouded in dark aura felt the same confusion. He thought for a moment and said, "It must have been with the help of some tool. Earthlings are best at creating various imaginative tools." Hearing his analysis, The Thorn Fairy did not dwell on the matter any further and instead laughed. That person is only rare level, yet dares to peek at us legendary level beings. He must be blind by now. Never mind that person. Hurry up and let me enjoy the taste of a flower fairy, the dark-haired man urged. He had long heard that the flower fairies of the Sun Moon Sacred Land were luscious, and he had always wanted to experience their charm. Today he finally had the opportunity and was determined to relish it. The Thorn Fairy pushed away the man pressing down on her, expressing some dissatisfaction. What's the rush? You better not go back on the deal you promised me. Rest assured, I never go back on my word. The man said as he pressed down again, his voice carrying a hint of the land of oblivion. Don't worry, the thing I promised you will naturally be delivered to your hands after we've taken over city number 1. It better be. Having said that, the Thorn Fairy quickly removed the leaves on her body and intertwined with the man in the flower bud. During their embrace, the Thorn Fairy asked, approximately when can we launch a comprehensive attack on city number 1? There's no rush, the man replied. What we need to do now is surround city number 1, preventing the people inside from escaping, exhausting their resources. Once they run out of ammunition and provisions, then we'll send troops to attack. In the blink of an eye. Several days had passed. Over these past few days, exotic plants in the dangerous zones outside had been spreading and had now reached the outskirts of the safe zones, posing a threat to city number 1. Regarding this, the leadership in the city held meetings almost daily to discuss strategies. That morning, in the meeting room, City Lord Qin Chuan looked around at everyone and asked in an unfathomably calm voice, regarding the relentless advances of the Sun Moon Sacred Land and the Land of Oblivion, does anyone have any thoughts? Deputy City Lord Shang Guanyuehua said, let's observe for now. We suffered heavy losses in the last major battle and need some time to recover. It's not suitable to engage in a large-scale battle. When Deputy City Lord Bai Wuobian heard this, he immediately expressed his disagreement. At a time like this, what do you mean observe? That's just sitting and waiting for death. If we do nothing and let the exotic plants spread over, the forest to the right side of the city and the lake on the left will sooner or later be occupied by the Sun Moon Sacred Land and the Land of Oblivion. Those two places are the main sources of our city's daily resources. Once they are occupied, our city will be completely doomed. We must take advantage of the fact that the exotic plants haven't completely taken over yet and, relying on our home field advantage, go out and confront the invaders from the Sun Moon Sacred Land and the Land of Oblivion, or we'll just be sitting ducks. Otherwise, once the outside is overrun with exotic plants, our chances of winning will only be lower. Bai Wuobian reasoned persuasively, convincing many people in the room. Upon this, everyone began to voice their support for the decision, one after another saying, Deputy City Lord Bai is right, we need to leverage our current home field advantage to confront the invaders from the Sun Moon Sacred Land and the Land of Oblivion. Or we'll merely be sitting ducks. I also support Deputy City Lord Bai's perspective. Deputy City Lord Shang Guan, you are too conservative and seem to be unaware of the current situation. The first few who spoke in support were confidants of Bai Wuobian. While supporting him, they didn't forget to belittle Shang Guanyuehua a bit to diminish his credibility among the other leaders. Qin Chuan wouldn't be the city lord for many more years and would soon be transferred to a higher position. At that time, the position of city number 1's lord would be a competition between Shang Guanyuehua and Bai Wuobian. The former represents the conservatives. The latter represents the radicals. Under the attack of Bai Wuobian's camp, Shang Guanyuehua's supporters gradually retaliated. Still have the nerve to say Deputy City Lord Shang Guan is conservative. If we'd been a bit more conservative last time and not blindly initiated a large-scale battle, would our losses be this severe? Indeed, being too aggressive without preparation only makes the situation graver. Deputy City Lord Bai, I think it's indeed not suitable to start a major battle now. After the rebuttal from Shang Guanyuehua's camp, Bai Wuobian's camp immediately countered. That's not right. If we had chosen to avoid the battle last time, the places now occupied wouldn't just be the dangerous zones 50 miles away, the stable areas outside the city gates might also have been taken over. Exactly, to put it nicely, it's being conservative, to phrase it harshly, it's being cowardly. Since we are in the origin land, we should prepare ourselves for the possibility of dying in battle one day. How can we cower and beg for mere survival? Who are you calling a coward? Who are you saying is cowering? Lin Zikin, you better make things clear. What's the use of talking with these brutes? City Lord, how do you see this matter? After a fierce debate, both camps finally threw the problem back to Qin Chuan, who was the city lord. Qin Chuan pondered for a moment, and finally, under everyone's gaze, he slowly began. Everyone, prepare yourselves. In 3 days, we will leave the city to meet the forces of Sun Moon Sacred Land and Land of Oblivion stationed outside and hold the stabilized zone. Upon these words, the expressions of the two camps were distinctly different. Those in Bai Wubian's camp all showed joy, already envisioning the bright future when Bai Wubian would become the city lord. On the other hand, Shang Guanyuehua's camp presented a completely opposite scene. Everyone's face was cold, discontented with Qin Chuan's decision, but dared not voice any opposition. In the city lord's word was law. No one could refute the city lord's decision, unless they no longer wished to be involved. Qin Chuan glanced at the people from both camps and sighed deeply to himself. What time was it, and these people were still thinking about vying for the position of city lord? The combined attack from Sun Moon Sacred Land and Land of Oblivion was the biggest crisis since the establishment of the city number 1. By the time the battle was on the verge of breaking out, it was hard to say how many could survive. The position of city lord? They might have to contend for it down below. That same afternoon, Qin Chuan's decision made in the meeting was announced throughout the city, that they would leave the city to fight in 3 days. Upon hearing this news, some in the city shouted in frustration, wanting to avenge their fallen brothers by sending the enemies from Sun Moon Sacred Land and Land of Oblivion to their graves. Conversely, others showed fear, afraid to leave the city to face the battle. Not everyone was unafraid of death. Many harbored a great fear of death. Better to live a coward than die a hero. In a certain open area in the city, Lan Tianbei gathered the 28 alien human-level geniuses in the team for a meeting. Originally, there were 30 alien human-level geniuses, but 2 had died in the last major battle, Nangang Liuyun and Qian Yifei. Lin Zikin observed the expressions of the people around him and noticed that everyone was calm, without a trace of sadness. Seemingly, they had become accustomed to the death of comrades. It seems the team had not been short of deaths in the past. Lin Zikin muttered to himself. He had a premonition that in the great battle in 3 days, more people from the team would die, far exceeding 2. But he didn't care, as long as Shen Qinghan was all right. Tomorrow, his task was to ensure that both he and Shen Qinghan were safe while killing as many enemies as possible to obtain evolution resources and enhance his own strength. In 3 days, we will leave the city to clash with the enemies from Sun Moon Sacred Land and Land of Oblivion stationed outside, which I believe everyone is aware of. Lan Tianbei looked at the people before him, his voice particularly resounding as he said, "This battle is extremely dangerous and will inevitably result in many sacrifices, even we can't avoid it. Fortunately, as soon as the battle begins, the leaders in the city will quickly engage the stronger opponents, so most of the enemies you will face are high-level experts, with a few being rare-level fighters. Relatively speaking, it is still safer. Everyone must cherish this battle, seize this opportunity to kill more enemies, obtain more resources, and enhance your own strength. That's all I have to say, everyone go back and rest well." With that, Lan Tianbei looked towards Lin Zikin and said, "Ziai Chen, stay for a moment, I have something. P.S. Please, a request for monthly and recommendation tickets." Chapter 440, In front of a true genius, even aliens are mere ants. Have a private talk? Lin Zikin was somewhat surprised, and so were the others. Nobody knew why Lan Tianbei wanted to talk privately. However, Lin Zikan didn't think too much about it and quickly followed Lan Tianbei to a deserted corner to see what he wanted to discuss. Seeing that there was no one around, Lin Zikan also became a bit vigilant, preparing himself to make a move if necessary. At this point, he trusted no one. Lan Tianbei suddenly requesting a private chat, he feared Lan Tianbei was a traitor, looking for an opportunity to deal with him one-on-one. Although he had overpowered Lan Tianbei without any difficulty during the last tree cage incident, it didn't mean that Lan Tianbei truly wasn't a match for him. If Lan Tianbei was a traitor, then it wasn't impossible for him to hide his real strength. While Lin Zikan was pondering all this, Lan Tianbei finally spoke up. Lan Tianbei said earnestly, "Zikan, there's something I want to ask you, and I hope you can agree." "Go ahead, Coach Lan," Lin Zikan said. Lin Zikan didn't immediately agree, thinking it better to hear what it was first. Lan Tianbei didn't beat around the bush and straightforwardly said, "I believe that with your strength, you're the most suitable person to be the leader of this alien human level team. I hope you will take the initiative to lead the team when they leave the city to face the battle." At that time, Zhao Qingxian and Zhang Tao might disagree, unwilling to hand over the leadership of the team to you. If that happens, directly suppress them and seize the speaking power of the team. Actually, if I spoke up, they would give you the speaking power of the team, but my relationship with them is too close, and it doesn't suit me to do so. After saying so much, it was clear that Lan Tianbei didn't want to be the bad guy and was pushing the dirty work onto Lin Zikan. Realizing this, Lin Zikan decisively refused without a second thought. "Coach Lan, I'm still just a novice, unfamiliar with the people in the team, I can't lead them. The task of leading the team, I think it's better to continue to leave it to Zhao Qingxian and Zhang Tao. As for me, I'd rather just be a team member." Why would he agree to be the villain without any benefits? If Lan Tianbei had offered an exotic fruit or some other form of compensation, Lin Zikan might have agreed. Seeing that Lin Zikan didn't agree, Lan Tianbei wanted to persuade him but didn't know how to start. In the end, he had to drop the matter as if nothing had happened. After the two returned to the team, Shen Qinghan immediately asked curiously, "Lin Zi, what did the coach talk to you about?" "Nothing much, he just wanted me to forcefully seize control of the team's speaking rights and lead the team in the big battle 3 days from now," Lin Zikan said without any concealment. Upon hearing this, Shen Qinghan simply nodded his head and didn't inquire further. Time flew. Suddenly, it was 3 days later. The day they were to leave the city for battle. Dawn. It was still dark. The square in front of the city gate had gathered nearly 10,000 people. Among these 10,000 people, 90% were high-level creatures. 9% were rare-level creatures. 0.9999% were epic-level creatures. Only the remaining 0.0001% were legendary-level creatures. Today is the day we go out to face the enemies from Sun Moon Sacred Land and the Land of Oblivion. Does everyone have confidence? Yes. On top of the high walls of the city gate, as the city lord, Qin Chuan was shouting, trying to boost morale in his own way. The soldiers below responded with boiling enthusiasm. Lin Zikan was also among those soldiers. But he was different from the others. At that moment, his heart was completely calm, focused only on killing more enemies to obtain evolution resources, nothing else. He felt that maybe it was because he hadn't been in the origin land for long and hadn't fully integrated yet. In simple terms, he lacked a sense of belonging. Conversely, Shen Qinghan, who was also new, was moved by the invigorating shouts around her. "City Lord Shang Guan, you lead the team responsible for opposing the strong ones from Sun Moon Sacred Land. White City Lord, you lead the team responsible for opposing the strong ones from the Land of Oblivion, which is relatively unfamiliar, making this task potentially very challenging. Everyone else, All of you get to the front-line battlefield and drive out any invaders that have breached into the stable area." Qin Chuan yelled from the platform. The moment his voice fell, the soldiers below immediately responded energetically. In the center of these soldiers, Lan Tianbei, standing upright as an instructor in front of the team, seriously advised the 28 alien human-level geniuses before him. "Once the city gate opens later, you 28 will act as one unit, make sure to stay together, and don't overindulge in heroics. Also, if you encounter a powerful enemy and find you can't defeat them, flee immediately, don't try to resist stubbornly. Next, as soon as the gates open, follow the rare level team led by General Lu, responsible for cleaning up whatever that team can't handle." After hearing Lan Tianyun's words, all the alien human-level geniuses nodded, indicating they understood what to do. About half an hour later, "Open the gates!" With Qin Chuan's shout, the city gates made of special huge stones instantly swung open. The moment the city gates opened, the soldiers on the square, all trained and disciplined, charged out. Those who could fly took to the air, those who couldn't ran. In an instant, thousands upon thousands of people streamed out towards the enemy, located dozens of miles away.